Hello and welcome to our Social Hackers Academy podcast. Here at Hack the Tech Industry podcast, we will be talking with experts to learn more about how to become a web developer and land a job.
So let's go for it. More people will join us, and we'd love to have your questions. As Amir said in the Q&A or chat, I will be there seeing these questions and all that. But before that, let me introduce you to our awesome guest. I happen to know him for the past
4 years now.
4 years now. Yeah, 4 years now. Erik has become some kind of Athens lover. So he has spent here a significant amount of time, and he's back and forth from his home, which is Lithuania. So Erik, please introduce yourself to us.
So today I'll talk about employee branding in 2021, not employer branding. I just want to make sure this is similar but quite different. And so basically
But before that, tell us a bit about yourself. How did you?
So that's what I'm doing.
How did you? Yeah. Okay.
So I started working 9 years ago. So I started as a freelance journalist. I was writing about technology and stuff. And later on, I moved on to public relations and copywriting. And now I do like pure public relations. So as you can see, I write press releases. I do product descriptions, employer branding. We do social media, crisis communication. We do basically like all this stuff. And I work with quite a few clients. The one in the middle, you can see the logo. It's actually a nonprofit organization and a quite similar one to Social Hackers Academy. They try to teach children programming by using microbit computers. So it's sort of similar, and I've worked with them, I think, with over a year. But most of my other clients, for example, Open Circle Capital is a venture capital fund, and other clients work with technology. So, for example, Telia, it's, I think, second largest telco operator. Bite is third largest telco operator. Topo Centras is a company in Euronics Group, and it's the largest electronics retailer in Lithuania. So I work with companies like that. And we do a lot of employer branding. We do a lot of personal communication. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. And this presentation, this seminar, or whatever we call it, it's tailored for social hackers, so for people in Social Hackers Academy, for people who are trying to learn programming and want to find a job in that area in IT. But it's also useful. It should be useful for basically anyone else. So as I've said, the world is basically getting a lot more personal. We are tired of brands, Polish language, and being like super official. And actually, coronavirus had a huge impact on that. Like we see companies on Facebook, on LinkedIn every day, and we're so tired of that like official language, and we just miss emotions, we miss people, we miss personality. And actually social media sites themselves, they prefer people over pages. And Facebook, like a few years ago, started a thing where they prefer your friends in your newsfeed over any company, and companies basically have to buy ads. Otherwise you see your friends and people who you follow. So let's start with some stats. An employee gets 561% more brand engagement when sharing a message compared to his company. And the average employee has 10 times more followers than their company, which sounds weird, but it is true because most of the companies are actually very small and they have like 10, 20 followers, and you have at least like 300, 400 friends. And actually, people tend to believe in people more than they do in companies. Like we see something on TV or on social media, and we think, oh, it's a marketing, it's BS. But when we see something from a person, especially if that person is like our friend and we know him personally, we tend to think that it's true. Even sometimes, like, we know it might be like marketing, but unconsciously we still think and believe and trust that quite a lot more. So what if you don't have a job yet? So LinkedIn should be your number one app. I don't know if it is, but judging by the what I saw on LinkedIn and Social Hackers Academy, like probably most of you have LinkedIn. And of course, you should keep in mind that your employers might actually check your other social media accounts. So if you're looking for a job, it's probably not a very good idea to upload like how you're drinking during like COVID times with your friends and getting wasted and all that stuff. And also, you should be like very creative, like especially if you're working in IT or like I do in communications and marketing. Your employers will really appreciate if you are like creative, if you do something differently, because that shows that you can do a lot more than just do stuff, do tasks that you're provided. So yeah, nowadays companies want people to be passionate about their job. They want more than just do tasks, and they want influencers inside of their office more than ever before. And they know that even good products, in this case, like employees, which you are or will be, they need marketing. So even if you're a very good specialist, you must show that, because like how your future employers will know that you're a good specialist if you don't know how to show that. So let's have a look at some stats in Greece. Facebook is actually the most popular social network in Greece. 56% of population use it. And even though people say that, Facebook is getting old and nobody's using that, that's not true yet. And that might not even get true, because actually, like, some people are saying that, young people are not using Facebook anymore. That is true until like you are 25, because when people are 25, they tend to get back on Facebook because they're not afraid of their parents anymore. And they get back on Facebook. They want to keep in touch with all the people around the world, with their friends, with their family. And that's where people are. And people are on Facebook. So they get back on Facebook. And that's why it's still the biggest social network in the world. And it probably continue to be. 36% can be reached on Instagram. That's not too relevant for if you're looking for a job, but still a big social network. Twitter and Snapchat is probably almost totally irrelevant for anyone. Maybe for IT, Twitter can be relevant, but I don't know. Like, I wouldn't focus on that too much. I'd rather look to LinkedIn, because you probably missed Bitcoin. You probably missed an opportunity to invest in Tesla when it was still very cheap. But LinkedIn, you can still get in onto that, because interestingly enough, LinkedIn looks very similar to what Facebook looked like 5-6 years ago. And I mean that like in almost every regard. So algorithms are very similar. They're very, it's very easy to get some organic reach. Even the content looks very similar. Like, you can see a lot of people just getting like thousands of likes by sharing like weird memes that probably shouldn't be on like professional network, but they are, and they are getting quite a lot of reach. So you shouldn't miss on LinkedIn, because all of that probably will change soon, because the larger social networks get, the more hungry they get, and they tend to push ads. They tend to make you to buy stuff, and that will probably change soon. So if you don't get big by then, it will be a lot harder in a few years. I always recommend personal LinkedIn communication. Like, even though my clients have quite a large following on their pages, personal LinkedIn communication is actually significantly cheaper, and organic reach is like really absolutely free and easily accessible to everyone. And you can grow your audience even without any content. I'll explain how later. That sounds crazy, but at least for now, that is true. That is not considered spam usually. if you do it right. So yeah, it's quite easy. So how to grow your audience on LinkedIn? So first of all, obviously, add all the people you know to your connections. Join some groups of your interests. I've noticed that groups on LinkedIn are not too active, especially when compared to Facebook or Reddit or whatever, but it's still useful. And of course, connect with all the smaller influencers of your interests. Follow all the bigger influencers, but you shouldn't send invitations to connect with them because that will be considered spam. But then there's one more small thing that a lot of people, for some reason, don't use, but it's a very easy way to grow your audience. Basically, what you do is you find a few people that post content similar to yours or post content that you would like to post. And basically, you check the list of people who like the post and you invite them to connect. You can connect with up to 30,000 people, I believe. And if you connect to those people who like similar posts to yours, they will probably not consider you spam. So you will get a lot of connections, you will get a lot larger reach, and those people also tend to like your posts. So this is an easy start. This is a great start, and you should do that. Of course, don't invite like 500 people per day. You might get banned for that. I've done that. I've got shadow banned for a few weeks for that. So invite like, I don't know, 50, maybe maximum 100 people per day, and that will be a great start for you. So what type of posts perform the best? Obviously, that's a different case for everyone, but usually the best performing posts in LinkedIn are text with image. Actually, same case for Facebook too. Your audience will watch your videos or read your long posts only if they trust you, only if they already follow you for quite a while. Otherwise, they'll see your long posts and they'll be like, I don't know who this guy is. So why should I read the stuff he wrote? Like, it will take me like, I don't know. If it takes me like 20 minutes, I don't want to waste my 20 minutes. People on LinkedIn are usually very busy. So start with like short text plus image, and then get to the long posts like after a year or two when you have a large following, when people already know you, you can get large posts then. But start with short text plus image. Any interactive type of post like questions and all that stuff, it doesn't really work. Like all the fancy stuff doesn't really work yet. People on LinkedIn tend to not to like connect with that. How your post should look. So as I mentioned, it should be like one or a few illustrations. Text should be like up to 130 words. Actually, LinkedIn posts have quite a small limit for your characters, so you will not be able to write long posts anyway unless you use article feature, which I would not recommend to do at the beginning. And use 3 to 5 hashtags, which sounds weird because hashtags are used only on Twitter actively. But in this case, in case of LinkedIn, hashtags are used to actually trick algorithms to show your posts higher. And then one more thing, always leave the link in the comments, which is one more thing that is, I think, applicable only for LinkedIn. And this is how the stats look. These are not my stats, but you can see like, so the green bars are with links in the post, and the blue bar shows a link in the comment. And you can see like the performance is a few times higher when you post the link in the comment. And as I've said, these are not my stats, but I've tested it on multiple clients of mine, and this is always the truth. So you should always post the link in the comments, at least for now. Maybe that will change in a few years because, for example, on Facebook, this is not as relevant, but on LinkedIn, for now, that is one of the main reasons why some of the posts might not be performing as well as you would like them to perform. So just post the link in the comment and the performance should be a lot better. Don't forget that LinkedIn is not Facebook. So don't upload like too many memes, especially if they're not work related. Your tone should be like semi-formal. As I said in the beginning, people are tired of formalities. People are tired of like official talking and like you're not Apple. You can be like semi-formal. Motivational posts, a lot of people do that on LinkedIn. Maybe sometimes that is okay. And those motivational posts actually attract audiences very easily. But the problem is that the audience will be very low quality. Like motivational posts are cheap, and I would not recommend to do that, or at least don't do that too often. Is timing important on LinkedIn? On Facebook, it is important. On Instagram, it is important. On LinkedIn, not as much. Even though I always recommend my clients publishing posts at either like 9:11 a.m. or 6:07 p.m. Time is not extremely important as on LinkedIn. I don't know if you noticed that, but you can see some of the posts like a few weeks later, sometimes even like a month later. If somebody likes a post, your connection likes a post of someone, you can see that post a month later. So if it's very good, the timing doesn't matter, but good timing always helps to push the start. So probably don't post like on Fridays and Saturdays evenings. That wouldn't be too smart. Now that doesn't matter, but when we get out out of Corona times, that will matter a lot more. So yeah, good timing will only help for the beginning, but if your content is good, it will be seen out even like a few weeks later. Of course, you should also be active. Like social media, like it's supposed to be social. Like that's why it's called social media. So comment on your posts of your colleagues, and your profile will get noticed. Like people do stalk each other. That's how it is. Post at least like 3 times a week, not because of some algorithm or whatever, even though that does help, but just because to make sure that people do not forget who you are. Because if you post like once in 2 weeks, people who you invited to connect with, they'll see like your posts. And if that post is at least a little bit irrelevant, they'll unfollow you. So yeah, post at least a few times a week.
Erik, sorry, yeah. I wanted to stop you so many times, but I have to stop you right here because this advice that you just gave. So there was this guy that we wanted to hire back in January.
Yeah.
Some things happened and we chose to go another way and we didn't hire this guy.
Okay.
So but I followed him, or he connected with me, or I connected with him because he was like a good candidate, but not the best. So I noticed that like every week he was learning something new.
Okay.
He was a thought leader. What you essentially say about posting. He was posting his code. I did this project. I did the other project. Yeah. So I was paying attention because I love LinkedIn. It's my favorite, personally my favorite social media. So I kind of stalked at him. And then at some point I saw that this guy keeps learning. He keeps hustling. He wants this position. And now we offered this position to him. So what you just said is absolutely essential, and it worked for this guy because an employer, myself in this case, followed him, and then I saw his growth. Yeah. And growth for me is important in this case, or something else could be important for someone else, right? So yeah, connect and post frequently. Sorry to jump in.
That's cool. Yeah, I have a sort of similar experience with quite a few clients. They actually like stalked me on Facebook and LinkedIn. Facebook is actually like super big in Lithuania. I think it's like has a 86% market share or something like that. So yeah, they stalked me on Facebook, they stalked me on LinkedIn, and I post quite a lot, especially on Facebook. And they stalked me for like 6 months, maybe 8 months. And they might not need my services like at the beginning, but maybe in 6 months they will need that, and that's when they text me. So yeah, that works very well, not only short term, but usually long term even better. So
yeah, because as you said, maybe your services are expensive, let's say, for them when you initially met them, but after 2 years, things are different for businesses, for your business, for their business, for everyone. So it's really worth keeping these connections as alive as you can. Of course, it's a job itself, so I don't recommend anyone spend like more than an hour on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Okay, when you're job hunting, yeah, you should spend quite a few hours in there. But yeah, anyway, sorry.
Yeah, on daily basis, yeah, I guess you probably shouldn't spend too much on it. Like, I think I mentioned it, or I will mention it somewhere in the presentation. Like, I probably don't do these things as much as I should. Like, I tell my clients to do all these things. You know how it goes. Like that's just how it is. Like you tell people to do things, but you don't always follow those rules yourself. So yeah. Anyway, when you get an invitation to connect, like sometimes it's spam. So like just take a look like who invites you to connect. But 99% of the time you probably should accept it. Like you can have up to 30,000 connections. So it's probably all right. So yeah, you shouldn't worry too much about that or getting spam or whatever. You can always unconnect with people after all too. So yeah. Of course, LinkedIn is not everything. As important as it is, there are a lot of things that might help you to like land a job. Even TikTok, like I've seen, I think once again, I'll mention it somewhere later, but I follow quite a few programmers on TikTok. I barely know any programming. I'm barely interested in it, but that content is cool. And I'm pretty sure they found at least a few clients on it just because their content is really interesting. Of course, use like live communication too, like when events will be possible. That's always not only fun, but it's always also like the easiest way to land a job or whatever. Instagram, Facebook, your CV, these are all like more traditional tools to find a job. Maybe Instagram, not too much, but Facebook, CV, LinkedIn, yeah, absolutely.
And in the case of devs, they could also add like Stack Overflow, go there, participate in the comments, answer questions, or even Reddit, Stack Overflow, and GitHub questions. They are really, really good because you don't know where your employer is. You don't know him. So he might be there doing his business and suddenly look at your insightful post and follow you. And after a while, hire you. You never know.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you can use GitHub as your portfolio, right? Like if you never had a job, like that's probably a good idea to do something for fun. And just use that as your portfolio.
Indeed.
Yeah, so Facebook is the biggest social network in the world, in Lithuania, in Greece, and in quite a lot of countries, probably with the exceptions in Asia and maybe a few countries in continents like Africa or South America. I'm not sure about that. It is very likely that you already know how it works, like especially if you are like 25 and over, like I'm pretty sure you've used it for at least a few years. Right now, it is also pushing more content from people than businesses. That's what I mentioned in the beginning. And the very important part is that groups are getting very big. Like Facebook is pushing groups like nothing else. Like they tried pushing videos and they've noticed that doesn't work. But groups are super big, and at least for right now, like that's where I use Facebook the most. Like I'm in multiple groups. Like for example, we have a super large group for COVID news in Lithuania. Like it's probably like 45,000 people. I've gained 2,000 followers just by posting in that group within like 3 or 4 months, within those few first months of the pandemic. The problem with Facebook is that your posts, if they're not shared by others, which doesn't happen too often, they can be reached only by our friends and followers. Also, algorithms are super complicated right now. So it will be slow. It will be really slow. I can tell you that it doesn't, like 1 year, 2 years is usually not enough in Facebook. Like I've been doing Facebook for probably like actively, I mean, probably like for 4 years now. I have, I think, around 4,000 followers, something like that, which is not too much. We have 3 million people living in Lithuania, just so we know. But yeah, that's still not a lot. So Facebook groups should be your key to success. Like basically, it's very easy to find your target groups there. So a few useful links for you. I know Social Hackers Academy has a group, and there's also one like Digital Nomads Athens, which I'm into, and I think that's where we met with Damien. Might be.
No, we met in the first event of that group,
Yeah.
the live event. We met physically back then.
Back in the good old days. Yeah, so it's quite obvious why SHA's group would be useful, but Digital Nomad Athens, like you can find quite a lot of people looking for employees there. So, and especially like programmers and stuff like that. So that might be useful. And also, as far as I know, most of the people in Social Hackers Academy are from abroad. Am I right?
Yeah, definitely.
So,
the Greek people are the minority for sure.
Yeah, so you are more or less a digital nomad. You will not only find friends there, you might also find a job. Yeah, it's a cool group. And there are like plenty of others that probably talk about programming, IT, and all that stuff. Some of them are like, most of them are actually like memes and stuff. So probably you shouldn't be very active in those. But I'm pretty sure you can find something if you just like spend like 20 minutes looking for like nice groups. Should you post to your newsfeed? I do that, but the growth, as I mentioned, is like super slow. And picking content here is a lot more difficult than LinkedIn because in LinkedIn, most of your followers are professionals in one way or another. On Facebook, you probably have your grandma or grandpa, your, I don't know, niece or whatever, and people here are like super lazy. Like on LinkedIn, people come when they want to read something about work, about their profession. On Facebook, people come to watch like cats and dogs and stuff. So it's a lot more difficult. So if your friends are not programmers, you probably should start with some like more mainstream stuff. I think everyone is more or less interested in AI, robotics, and stuff. Of course, I mean, don't post about like the new AI algorithm or like new release of NVIDIA's AI for cars or whatever. Like, I don't think that's very mainstream, but there is a lot of mainstream AI and robotic stuff. If your friends are mostly programmers, which might be the case too, stick to the content mostly like similar to LinkedIn, but just like use more familiar, simpler language and be even less official than you're on LinkedIn. And on Facebook, of course, memes can work too, even in the groups. Of course, always read the rules in the groups. Some groups do not allow memes, but yeah. And find what works for you. People read even super long text. Like, I don't know, Damien, if you noticed that, or if you ever read my posts or tried reading my posts, but most of them are like super long.
Yeah, unfortunately, I fell under the category of try to read your post, and then at some point I just scan through them and move on. But yeah, it really depends because, for example, you talk a lot about technology and mobile phones, which like that interests me, but not enough to spend 10 minutes to do that. But there is a very famous marketer that his posts on Facebook, actually I'm not sure on Facebook because they don't allow you that many characters, but in emails, he sends like newsletters with 12,000 words. 12,000 words is like a book. And they ask him like, why do you post that long? Because they say he responds, the 2 or 3 people who read all of it are the people who are going to buy my products.
Yeah.
Or in this case, are the people who are going to become your coding buddies or your next employer, or they're going to invite you to a cool open source project. So Yeah, be yourself, like whatever that is. It's I like short and sweet. That's how I call my posts, which I don't do that many of anyway. But be whoever you want. There is always an audience out there for you.
Yeah. And some people like even doing videos, and as you said, like writing short posts. I like writing long posts. One good example I have, sadly, it's a Lithuanian guy, so I cannot really show it to you. But he does videos about construction and stuff like that, and I watch his stuff because he makes it interesting. And I wrote a few texts for him because he's not good at writing, but he's great in video, and he knows how to make stuff interesting, even when you probably shouldn't be interested in it. Like I'm literally wasting my time watching his content, but it's so good, even though it's about a topic I'm not interested. So yeah, a few more tips for Facebook. If you post a short post up to 3 lines, picture is not necessary. Like usually you should add a picture, especially if it's a bit longer post. But if it's like up to 3 lines, it's definitely not necessary. It's basically like a tweet. Shorter posts are good in the morning because people usually prepare for work, and they tend to read like short posts. And longer posts actually work very well in the evening and at night because like people are already done with all the work, so they can allow themselves to read whatever you wrote about. Hashtags, they're almost useless on Facebook. What I do with them is I actually use them as headlines because Facebook gives like a blue color to them. So that's the only usage I see in hashtags for Facebook. Nobody uses them as they're supposed to be used. So yeah, use double space in between paragraphs because this is one of my posts, at least a part of it. The problem is if you don't use double spacing between paragraphs, they all seem like one large paragraph. Nobody wants to read this. This is already very large. But if it would be like one very large paragraph, it would look even more scary. And the other thing, one more last thing, if you do like something a bit more scientific, if it's about like your opinion about like, I don't know, new PHP version. I don't know if that sounds about right, but yeah, whatever. If it's like about that, always share your data and other sources. Like it will make your content look a lot more reliable, and reliability is what you want. What about photos? So these are actual examples I've used in the past of the photos. So the photo with you as a person, I mean, people will like it because they probably don't see you often. Then something emotional, it will make people like your post even if they don't read the text. And that sounds kind of useless, but it actually helps the algorithm, and it will make Facebook show your post to more people, so more people will actually read it. Comparison is a clickbait, and so is data. Like usually it's just a small part of a post, but it will make people read your posts. It will make them interested in it. And also one more thing, try to use as little text as possible in the picture, because Facebook algorithms are not friendly for that. And for pages, I believe you cannot even like do advertising if your image has too much text. And once again, post often, like not too often, because as you can see in these stats, like if you post like 2-3 times per day, your performance is decreasing. But try to post like as often as you can without like spamming. I don't do it like too much, as I mentioned, because like writing about PR or technology every day would be quite difficult without like becoming a news portal, and I don't want that. Also, if you often post like about different topics. So for example, you post about front end, and then you post about back end, and then you post about databases. Your audience will divide in 3 parts, which is not exactly good. So you should decide beforehand what you'll post the most about. If you have no idea what to post about, just don't post anything. That's it. Like, I'd rather not post anything for like 2 weeks than post something mediocre. So yeah, quality over quantity. Yeah, I've mentioned TikTok, and this is probably the best example of TikTok for programmers. She does like lab, like very, I'd say, pop stuff, like about hackers and dark web and all that stuff. But sometimes she goes more in depth about programming, and I'm pretty sure she landed quite a few clients or jobs or whatever. I don't know how she works, but yeah, it's great. And TikTok is not for kids anymore. Like, trust me, like almost, it's actually like becoming for more older audiences now. Like, people who I see, like a lot of people who are over 40, they're just scrolling TikTok nonstop. And it's very easy to get viral there. Like, it's a brand new social media platform. And as I mentioned earlier, when a social media platform is brand new, it's very easy to get viral. Whether it's TikTok, Clubhouse, or LinkedIn is still sort of new, I'd say. Like, it's now revived. So yeah. What about Twitter? Well, I never use it for my clients because in Lithuania, probably like 5% of people use Twitter, maybe even less. But it's a great source for content and inspiration. These are like two sources I found about Laravel framework, if I'm saying that correct, I'm not sure. One of them is actually, the first one is actually a Lithuanian guy, and I do what I do now because of him. It's a very long story. I will not tell that, but yeah. And there are a lot more like Twitter accounts that post interesting stuff about programming, marketing, or whatever. So if you don't post there, just use it for inspiration for your content. And you can basically not copy, but retell things that you find on Twitter. Just retell them on LinkedIn, and it's a nice hack, I'd say. Like, when you don't know what to post, it's a great way to find something. If you want to freelance, or if you are freelancing now, all of the things I've said are actually even more relevant to you, because you have to do that constantly. You are your own brand if you're freelancing. So get a portfolio, like as I mentioned earlier, like that might be a website, GitHub. You can do just like some projects for fun, and get basically on every freelance platform possible, like LinkedIn groups, Facebook groups, Upwork, people per hour, and even Fiverr, even though that's sort of controversial. But in some cases, people do get successful on Fiverr. I don't know how often does it happen, but yeah.
I think it can happen. For example, in SHA we've been using Fiverr from the beginning,
yeah,
and I'm always looking for freelancers. Okay, and Fiverr is a very good way to fish for freelancers, because I give the same project to 3 people, and then I choose the best, and with most of them, then I build a relationship that leads us leaving the Fiverr platform and working together. And this is, it's a very good way. It's not just a Fiverr.
Yeah.
If you have a strategy and you play like the long-term game, I think Fiverr has a lot of attention.
Yeah, probably the largest problem with Fiverr is that, at least in the beginning, you will have to go cheap whether you want it or not. Like, because you will be competing with guys who live in Ukraine and in India, and even in Lithuania, where obviously cost of labor is a lot cheaper and cost of living is a lot cheaper. So yeah, it will be difficult.
This is how you start.
Yeah, it's a long-term game.
Yeah, and I'm sure you started from offering much lower prices than what you do right now. Okay, maybe not Fiverr, but that's how you start. And you start with the tools you have. And Fiverr is a great tool.
Yeah, when I started, I was writing texts for like less than 1 cent per word, which now sounds crazy because sometimes now I get like €1 for one word. Like not always. Don't think I'm like a millionaire, but sometimes that's the case. So why freelancing? So obviously now it got very big, and there is like huge shortage of tech professionals in Canada, in the US, and basically all over the world. And you don't have to necessarily travel there to work there. Maybe China, I don't know how open they are about like freelancers, but other countries, yeah, go for it. And since 2009, the number of digital talent platforms has grown like by a lot. So there's not only like Fiverr and people per hour, there are also like plenty of small platforms, and you should probably get on them. Like, yeah, it will be sort of difficult to check every one of them every single day. But the thing is that the smaller the platform is, there will be like less potential clients, but there is also like a lot less competition. And some of the platforms are probably like more specific. So if you do something more specific, I don't know what that could be, but you should probably like try all of them and just see what sticks. Of course, if you're a beginner, be careful with freelancing. As I mentioned, you will have crazy competition in the beginning, and it will be very hard, not only like to deliver on promises, but also to find good clients. You will probably get scammed sooner or later, whether you want it or not. As careful as you are, like I've been scammed. I had to like do legal actions and all that stuff. If it's like €50, it's probably not worth it, but yeah, it will be hard. So if you're a beginner, I don't know, expect to put in a lot of work, or just, I don't know, find a full-time job and freelance on the side. That's probably the safest option, I believe. Yeah.
It's part of the game. Getting getting screwed. It's part of the freelancer's game. But this is how you start. You build your portfolio, you build your clientele, and then you can have a very good, especially if you are a decent programmer, your work at the end will find someone who is willing to pay good money for it.
Yeah. Yeah. And later it usually does get easier, even though people say that's not the case, but it does get easier because clients, surprisingly, clients who pay more, they tend to ask for less. They don't micromanage. They don't tell like, change that stuff. Oh no, change it back. Yeah. So it probably does get easier. Like at least in my case, it did get easier.
Yeah.
In your case, probably it does too. I don't know.
Yeah. So Erik, allow me to jump in a bit. We are kind of running out of time, so I would definitely like to respect your time, but also I would like to answer the questions from the Q&A. So, are you finishing soon, or you think it will be better to
just 3 or 4 more slides?
Okay.
Yeah. So when you're doing your CV or like Fiverr portfolio, have a clear title. So don't do like, especially like if you're a beginner, don't do like fancy stuff. I actually did fancy stuff on my LinkedIn because I'm not a beginner. But if you're a beginner, just put a programmer, not like a wizard of like, I don't know, C++. No, that's difficult, and also not very good for like search engines. So yeah, just make sure it's a clear title. First paragraph should be like on what you're doing, then put all of your skills, and don't forget call to action in the end. Like as stupid as that sounds, that actually does help a lot. And of course, best advertisement is word of mouth. Like I got most of my clients through like recommendations, or like I have a client who has stock in multiple companies. So I work with one of his companies, and then in like a few years, I work with all of his companies. So yeah, just make sure your clients are satisfied, and it will definitely pay off in the long term. Yeah, that is the best advertisement, better than LinkedIn, better than Facebook. Yeah. And now we can get to the questions.
Awesome. Would you like me to ask them towards you?
I see all of them, so yeah, don't worry about
Okay,
that.
so okay. Okay, actually, let's because some people who are going to go to the recording, they cannot see the questions per se. So
Oh yeah,
let me
okay.
start by the first one. So
Okay.
I need to know your opinion about increasing number of followers by app or website. Is it effective? Does it help? Especially if you're starting a new business.
Now I don't know if I understood the question correctly.
Yeah, me too. I think what he needs.
I got it. I think what the guy is asking about, or lady, I don't know, asking about is it for like buying followers? Am I correct? I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Never. I'm sorry. Never
Yeah.
buy followers, comments, likes. Never ever. We need like an hour to discuss why.
Yeah.
So just don't. It's like no.
Yep. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It actually like hurts more than helps. A lot more. It hurts your credibility. It hurts your you might get banned. You might get shadow banned. All kinds of stuff will happen, and none of that stuff is good.
Yeah. There is currently a scandal going on in Greece where our prime minister bought likes, and some likes come from, I don't remember the African country, to be honest. I apologize for my ignorance, but it was like so crazy. Like, come on.
I've noticed he has quite a few scandals like in the past few months.
yeah. But this is like, okay, why? Anyway, so let's go to the next question. I want to ask, if I am a coder in UAE, United Arab Emirates, which platform is best for me to start promoting my work? Facebook or Instagram or Google Ads, if the budget is not so big too?
So actually, I don't know how social media situation is in Arab Emirates, but I guess that LinkedIn would be the number one choice, because with Facebook it would be like super slow and not effective enough in like short term. Google Ads, the problem with Google Ads is that as soon as you stop doing it, that's it. So probably LinkedIn personal communication, and just looking for audience in the country and inviting people from UAE. It should work. I don't know how big LinkedIn is there, but it should be big, because it's quite an international community there. So yeah.
And maybe it's not always about the crazy numbers, because you don't need 1,000 employers. You need one.
Yeah.
So for me, the key always is to provide value, whatever you are. If you are on LinkedIn, add value. If you are on Stack Overflow, GitHub, Reddit, wherever you are, add value. And if you keep adding value day, by month, by year, I know it sucks to wait a year, but it really works. Yeah. It really, really works. So yeah, just provide value. So then another question from Johnny. Are the hard colors affect our customers? If we use red and yellow and more hard colors to grab attention while we do our advertisement, is it clear for them, or it might hurt the eye?
Well, this one, it actually depends. Like, you can do it tastefully and you can do it distastefully. So yeah, but colors do work. Colors do work very well. And for example, red color, that's why McDonald's has red color, because it makes you want to eat and all that stuff. You can easily Google it. They do work, just do it tastefully. Like right now, probably the trend is to do colors like pastel colors, like not as like super bright and saturated, but yeah, it does work and it is effective.
And it also depends a lot on your culture. The European, let's say, if we could say there is a European culture to the Middle East culture, is very, very different. So I would suggest for you to look at other people similar like you to see what kind of colors they use and adjust accordingly. Yeah. And about the colors you mentioned, red and yellow, red, orange, and yellow are used very often in websites for the call to action.
Yeah.
So don't overuse them. Keep them for the good stuff. Keep them for where you want to grab their attention. Mostly
example,
in a button.
Navy blue is like usually used by banks and fintechs. So yeah, it does work. It does work. Like it's not like a super significant thing. Like probably maybe it will increase your performance by like 5-10%. That's a number from my mind. It's not an actual stat, but that's my guess. But that's still quite significant. If the only thing you have to do is to change the color, yeah, why not? Like that's like 3-5-10% performance increase. Why not? So the next question is
cool. The next question is from Slim Kazraoui. What's the logic behind that? I mean, posting the link in the comment and not in the actual post.
So basically, it's LinkedIn's algorithm wants you to stay in LinkedIn. And if you post a link in the post, it means that you want people to click the link on the post and get out of LinkedIn, and LinkedIn doesn't want that. LinkedIn wants people to see their advertisements and all that stuff. So that's why algorithms prefer putting you the link in the comments. So yeah, that's why. Basically, it's an algorithm, but yeah, that's the explanation why algorithm works that way.
And another, for example, similar example is Facebook. Facebook prefers to upload your videos in Facebook than share them from YouTube, because this means that you will leave Facebook to go to YouTube. So you have to think of their incentives, and their incentive is to keep you there as long as possible.
Yeah, with YouTube links, I've noticed that whenever someone shares a YouTube link, usually it has like from 1 to 10 likes, even though that person has like 20,000 followers. Like it's crazy. And it's because, like, as you mentioned, like people go out of Facebook to YouTube and they don't get back because YouTube just gets you in, and that's it. That's how it works.
Especially YouTube, because you go there and but for me, the social media that really sucks you in is TikTok. I have never experienced all my life this amount of it really grabs me. It's crazy.
Yeah, the thing is that you cannot stop the video. Like the second you open the app, you don't have to push the button. It just goes. Yeah. And then you scroll and scroll. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Last question from Johnny. He says, very nice story. Actually, he didn't share his story. So let me jump in here and tell your story. At least the story I like is that he was like, when I met him, he hadn't even graduated high school. And he hadn't graduated high school. He was visiting Athens. He was in this cool Digital Nomad Athens event, and he was already successful without even having graduated high school, or just graduated, something like that. So that's the cool thing. And now you keep growing your business and getting more and bigger clients, and you are doing a very good job at your branding. That's it.
Well, it took me 9 years,
of course.
Yeah, so that's the main point. Like it's a long-term game. It's not gonna be like and that's it. No, it's not, doesn't work that way, sadly.
Okay, Johnny actually posted another question. So, do you recommend starting posting about what we do in details and contacting people via LinkedIn? Do you think it's sometimes spam for them or not?
So you shouldn't post about what you do. Like, if I understand the question correctly, like if I would post every day that I do PR and all that stuff, it would be advertising. And then, yeah, of course, it's spam. You should post actually like useful stuff. You should post or like interesting stuff. So it shouldn't look like an advertisement, but because if you invite people to connect and then you post advertisements, of course it's spam. So yeah, just post interesting stuff and it will not be spam. Especially if those people you invite to connect already like similar content. So yeah, then your content should work too.
Cool. And last question from Johnny as well. What causes a huge gap between the reach and the engagement number?
So usually that's the case when you buy an advertisement, but your content sucks. But in some other cases, just a lot of people might see your contents and not actually engage with that. So that might happen for a lot of different reasons, but like the one I can think of now is that, for example, on LinkedIn, one person that has a huge following liked your post for some reason. So then it shows to a lot of people, but your content actually is not that good. So that guy was interested, that person was interested, that one person with a large following, but his following was not. And that's why you might have like a large reach and like tiny engagement numbers, small engagement numbers. So yeah, that might be like one of the cases. That's the case I can think of now. But yeah, if that happens, that means your content there's something wrong with your content. Like it's either like too long or just like you don't have a call to action, or like there might be like many different reasons. So yeah, not the best answer probably, but I hope
it's hard to answer this, because to really answer you need to go and tell them about the syntax of the social media post, how to put, what to put, all that, which is not the concept of this brief seminar. Okay, I see there is another question. So let's, from Moment Mostafa, to how much extent I may beautify or overestimate my soft skills when branding myself? And is it recommended, or I just be totally honest in exhibiting my skills?
And Damian, what do you think about this? Because I have quite a few friends who are programmers, and they tell me like that you should beautify quite a lot. I don't know how true is that.
Listen, yeah, I like beautifying things. You know, you always beautify things, because, for example, Social Hacks Academy branding, for me, it's like great.
Yeah.
But our company at the end of the day is not as organized as our website might look like. You know, we are not that great. At least this is because I like our website, of course. So it's nice to beautify things, and that's where good design, good syntax, or what you said before about the double space on the Facebook post, like this beautification, if that's even a word, is about, for me at the end, to provide value. But for me, you should always be honest. You should always ever be honest, because if you are a liar, if you want to manipulate people, you might manipulate them for a day. You might get a good freelance project, for example, that you get a lot of money from, but that's it, because this client will never hire you again, will never introduce you to his friend again. And this is how you build a freelance business. And this is how you get employed, because the people, like I'm employed here, for example, other people from other similar organizations follow me on LinkedIn, right? And they wait for me to grab me whenever I lead Social Hacks Academy or whatever. So just be yourself, and be who you are, whoever that is. That's the great thing. Internet for me has democratized. You can be good looking, you can be ugly, you can be a geek, you can be whoever, and there is always an audience for you. There is always an employer for you. So that's why be yourself. It's much easier. And it actually takes so much time and effort to be a liar. So why do that? Sorry for the long answer, but
Yeah, all good. Yeah, I guess lying works short term, and being honest should work if you put the work in, of course, should work long term. So yeah, like Damien already said most of the things I would probably say. Yeah, so I can just agree. Like, yeah, just probably be honest, beautify, but don't lie, I guess.
yeah. Use, for example, because most of us are not native English speakers. All right. So I speak very good English, but my writing is really, really bad. So I don't use it, but I propose for people to use Grammarly, for example,
yeah, it's a
or
good
have
way.
or have someone proofread, because this is your brand. This is what people will buy, and it's okay to not be an expert in JavaScript.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's not okay to misspell JavaScript or to write Java instead of JavaScript.
Yeah.
You know, these are some things that for me, because everything is acceptable, but it's such a small thing that, like, do it right.
Yeah,
Use the tool.
that's a very good example actually of beautifying in a good way. Because yeah, if you correct your like grammar mistakes and you don't actually write as well as you do in your, for example, LinkedIn posts, that will probably not hurt the company you will work for because they care about you programming, not about you writing. But that also increases your chance of getting employed. So yeah, it's a win-win, I guess. Yeah.
And it's the small things, even when the program is like all the companies are really looking for them, they're still looking for the right person. And you have to do your very, very best, especially in your first job. That's the hardest thing to get as a developer. For the first job, go above and beyond, and then 10 extra miles, whatever you have to do.
Yep.
All
I
right.
agree. So
Cool.
I guess, yeah.
All right, Erik, thank you very, very much for joining us today. It has been really long due to do this seminar, and I really want to thank you for your perseverance. And I'm really glad we did that. Johnny says thank you very much.
Yeah, this was fun. This was fun.
Catalia Leo says thank you very much. Amir, Johnny, everyone is excited. Where can people find you?
They can find me on LinkedIn. Well, once again, just my first name, last name on LinkedIn. On Facebook, probably I wouldn't recommend because like I post in Lithuanian, so that's sort of irrelevant. So yeah, I guess LinkedIn is your choice number one.
All right.
Yeah, thank you.
Right.
This was super fun to talk to surprisingly active audience and talk to you, Damien, too. Like I haven't seen you in quite a while.
Yeah, fortunately. Thank you, Sophia. Sophia says thank you and take care.
Thank you so much for sharing with us your knowledge. It was a pleasure to have you as part of the Hack the Tech Industry podcast. You can join our live event every last Wednesday of the month, remember, and check our social media to get to know more about our coming events.